Hello, shalom everybody. Our last question in the shiur was, is there something special in Jewish ethics? Our answer was, first of all, by definition, the answer should be yes. Because ethics is related and is connected to the culture, to the history, to the society, and every group of people have different ethical principles. So therefore, by definition, the answer will be yes. But the question is much more deeper, and that is, can you define the difference? And more than that, I'm not talking about ethics that are rules that are consequences from Hashem's orders, from the divine orders between us and Hashem. I'm talking about issues that are connected to what we call ben adam lechavero. Is there something that you can share with the whole world about Jewish ethics that everyone can adopt, and it may be the message of the nation of Israel, of the Torah, to the whole world, something that we are sharing, and you can adopt it even if you don't believe in God, even if you are not an observant person, even if you are Gentile. My answer is yes, and in this year, in the next year, I'll try to demonstrate, I'll try to give some examples in order to explain it. Let's take one of the essential issues that we are debating in the whole world, especially in the Western world. What should be the balance between two principles that are connected to communication, ethics in communication, or communication ethics? As we said in the last year, from one hand, there is a principle of freedom of expression. Everybody can say whatever he wants. And not only that, there is a real importance that there will be freedom of expression, because there is basic rights of the publicity of the society to know. We want that society will know. Transparency is something that is very important for us. We have some conclusions from the history that when there is an open discussion, when information is being transferred, when things are here and there and the authorities cannot hide anything, it's better. The authorities and all the people that are actually are leading the society are under continuously focused. Everyone can see them, and criticism is something that is very important. From the other hand, there are a few values that say the opposite. First of all, the right of the individual to have his good name, and that people will not say nasty things about them, especially when they are lie, but not only when they are the wrong things to say. Even when they are the truth, there are rights of privacy, and it's very important that we'll not insult and will not embarrass people publicly. Not only that, there is also importance that will honor our leaders, our authorities, that will be respect towards them, because when you are damaging or dismissing the idea of respect, it can be very dangerous for the society. So how to balance between these two values? I can say that today in Israel, and I think in the United States of America, even more than that, and in the whole world, I mean the Western world, the balance is very, very easy, relatively, and the decision was what's more important is freedom of expression and the right of the public to know. So therefore, actually, everyone can say everywhere whatever he wants, and not only that, we are supporting it, and we are admiring all kinds of reporters or public writers or people that design the public opinion, to say whatever they want, wherever they want, about whatever they want. There are only a few tiny limits For instance, in Israel, there's a law against against racism, and when there is when it's possible that it will cause violence. So there are a few laws that say that you are not permitted to say or to express these opinions, but actually there's a complete freedom of expression. And even if the law doesn't say that in an explicit way, but the custom and all the system in trial is actually designing this position and this opinion. Freedom of choice, of expression, and the right of the public to know is the essential thing in a democratic society. It's a priority, and in order to limit that, it should be in a very, very extreme occasion. Usually, we don't use it. In the Israeli war, the law says in an explicit way, if someone is advertising something that is truth, that is not a lie, he will be protected from suing him, and he will not have to pay any compensations. But there is another tiny sentence that he should also prove that the public has the interest to know that. But actually, as I said before, today the general opinion is that the public should know everything. So therefore, once it's the truth, this is the right thing to do, and this is the right thing to design the society. Is this Jewish ethics? The answer is very complicated. Why is it very complicated? Because everybody knows that in Jewish ethics, in the Jewish law, the pasuk, the Torah says, "Lo telech achil be'amecha," you shall not be a gossiper among your people. I mean, the Torah says you should not say bad things against people. And the Rambam says it's even worse than the worst sins that they are. He says it's worse than bloodshed, it's worse from worship and other things in our tradition. Lashon hara is the worst thing that there is. The Gemara says, that our sages say, that actually if someone has to decide, and he has only two options, or to suicide, to burn himself, or to embarrass or insult someone publicly, he should choose, and he should decide to suicide, and not to, and if he abused to do that, and if he's forced to do that, and not to insult and embarrass people publicly. Not only that, but the Jewish tradition and the Jewish law says something that is completely different from the ethical way of thinking, and that is that it doesn't matter, or at least it matters, but it's for this issue and for this topic, even if the things you want to say are the truth, when you are insulting or embarrassing or saying bad things about people publicly or even in an intimate way, this is a bad sin. It's one of the worst sins that there is, and there is a big confrontation against lashon hara, against halbanat panim barabim, embarrassing people publicly in the Jewish tradition. So therefore, first of all, it's a different ethical principle, because as I said in the first year, ethics always has a kind of dilemma. But before you start with a dilemma, and we'll come to the dilemma, but before you start with the dilemma, you should understand that the question is the dilemma between what kind of principles. And the first, the major difference between the law all over the world and the Jewish ethics is that the law all over the world, and unfortunately also in Israel, is if you say the truth, it's all right, it's not lashon hara, you are permitted to say that. According to the Jewish tradition and according to the Jewish law, lashon hara is also when you say the truth. Okay, but this is a big problem. So, from the other hand, if this is the Jewish halacha, and if the Torah says no bad things should be said against people definitely not publicly. What's with the criticism? And how to protect the society from bad people. I know it from my experience, it's very sad to say that, but for instance, when there is a sex abuse against students in all kinds of religious institutes, sometimes the halacha, the wrong way of commentating the halacha, I want to emphasize that, the wrong way of commentating the halacha is actually an obstacle to face it, to confront it, because the victim thinks that it's lashon hara. You're not allowed to say bad things against someone, even if he hurted you, and you are not allowed to insult him. So therefore, in a wrong way of thinking, if you are not balancing between another value, and we'll speak about it immediately, then actually lashon hara and the fact that it's prohibited can make the society a very bad place to live. But let's read in a very, very explicit way the whole pasuk, because the pasuk says lo telech rachil be'amecha. You should not be a gossip man. How do you say the word? Gossiper from one hand, but the pasuk continues lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. You shall not you shall not stand aside while your fellow's blood is shed. What is the connection between those two parts? So the Rambam says the second part of the pasuk is an explanation to the first one. That means, Lo telech achil ba'amecha, don't be a gossiper, because if you'll be such a person, you may cause bloodshed. But this is only one way to read the pasuk. The Chizkuni, one of our big commentators of the Torah in the 13th century, said, no, it's actually two values. Lo telech achil be'amecha, don't be a gossiper, but lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. That means, from the other hand, if you'll always say, no lashon hara, no rechilut, no bad things about people, you sometimes will find yourself standing aside when someone is being hurt, and even if you yourself. And actually, you will be a great supporter, and you will bring and lead the society to be a bad place to live, because murders or sex abusers or whatever will be protected. You don't say bad things against them. You don't advertise. You don't argue. You don't discuss. You're not trying to protect anyone because you don't want to say bad things about people. So therefore, the Torah in the same pasuk, in the same sentence says, there are two values. Lo telech achil ba'amecha, lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. And when you are debating if to speak, if to face, if to argue, if to confront, if to sue someone, you have to remember that actually you are committed to two different values. So even in Jewish law, like everywhere else, there is a point where you have to balance. And as I said before, this is the dilemma. So is there difference between the whole world? Because we started with the fact that the whole world has this discussion, is trying to balance between those two values, and now we are saying, okay, also Jewish tradition has the same problem and is trying to balance. So is the balance point the same? The answer is no. The answer is no because of two reasons. First, as we said, according to the Western world, when you say the truth, you are protected. You can say whatever you want. But according to the Jewish tradition, saying the truth, bad things, even if they are the truth, is not a protection. It's not a reason you're not defended. You have to check another thing. And what is the another thing you have to check? You have to check if there's a real need, if it's really necessary, if you are doing something good by advertising or speaking and saying bad things about someone, even if they are the truth. So therefore, the balance point will be different. We said before that in the Western world, in the liberal world, the balance point is very, very, very close to the edge. The right of the public to know, freedom of expression. In Jewish ethics, it will move. It will move to the center. And it will say that there's actually no right to the public to know. The public doesn't have rights to know. There are sometimes, and there are occasions, and many occasions, that it's necessary that the public will know. So instead of using the term, the right of the public to know, I will use, according to Jewish ethics, the necessity of the public to know. And where there is a necessity, then you are committed and obligated to say bad things on people under the limits of that they are the truth, in order to find the real balance place. So, if people think that according to Jewish ethics, you should be silent and be only in the edge and never say bad things about people, they're wrong. Because they're very committed to the lo telech rachil b'amecha, don't be a gossiper, but they are denying and they are actually rejecting your obligation and your commitment to lo ta'amod al dam recha, don't stand and not protect people from bloodshed. So therefore, you cannot go to this edge. But if people think that according to the communication ethics, you should go to the different edge and say, you have the freedom of expression and you have the right of the public to know, as I said before, the balance is not there, the balance point. And it should be more in the center. You should be much more careful. You should be much more sensitive. In reality, it's very difficult to apply it, because then there are questions from the second level. Who will say if there is a necessity or not? How do you know in advance? Maybe things that you think that are not necessary are very necessary. Maybe the other hand, you think that it's so important that people should know, but actually it's not important. So when you want to apply these principles, it's really difficult. And maybe because there are so many questions about how to apply them, the gap between the Western world and the Jewish ethics rules is narrower. It's not so big, because you have to bridge not only with principles, but also with the way to apply it. But I think that this is a very good case to demonstrate what is the answer to the question, is there a special kind of Jewish ethics? Yes, the Jewish ethics has a different answer and a different balance point between freedom of expression and the right of the public to know, and the necessity not to insult people and not to embarrass them and to respect your authorities. And this is one of the things that I think we can share with the world and make this world a better world. Shalom.